For years, there's been this, invisible wall between macOS and iOS. It's basically a barrier keeping you from actually managing the hardware that you own. Well, in today's explainer, we're tearing that wall completely down. We're going to look at how a highly anticipated native release finally unlocks your iPhone's true potential. Let's get right into it.
Look, if you've ever hit a brick wall trying to get detailed diagnostics or maybe just pull off a selective backup using standard stuff like Finder or iTunes, you know exactly how maddening Apple's native limitations can be. I mean, sure, Finder handles basic syncing okay, and iTunes, well, it does the standard all-or-nothing backup. But the second you need actual flexibility, like, say, digging into why your phone is suddenly running super hot or trying to move a massive 4K video file without waiting forever, those built-in tools basically leave you in the dark. They force you into these super rigid workflows that just make zero sense for power users like us.
And the scale of this frustration? It is absolutely massive. To put this into perspective, over 29 million Macs were sold globally in 2024 alone. 29 million. The demand for a powerful, dedicated device management tool for this huge audience was honestly just impossible to ignore anymore. Because, let's face it, the vast majority of those Mac users also have iPhones. That is literally millions of people stuck looking for a better, more transparent way to manage the devices they rely on every single day.
Now think about what we used to have to do. For the longest time, getting advanced device control meant resorting to these incredibly clunky, storage-heavy workarounds. We're talking about carving out huge hard drive partitions for Windows via Boot Camp, or running super demanding virtualization software like Parallels, all just to manage an iPhone. It was an incredibly time-consuming hack. But thankfully, with the official April 2024 release, we are finally leaving those massive virtual machines in the dust. What we have now is a fast, completely native macOS experience. It's a super lightweight, 178 megabyte native app that runs flawlessly on macOS 12 and up. And yeah, that means it perfectly supports both the older Intel processors and the lightning-fast new Apple Silicon Macs.
All right, moving on to Section 1. Unlocking your iPhone's potential beyond basic syncing.
So let's dive into the actual superpowers this software brings to your desktop, because this is where managing your phone gets genuinely exciting. Instead of just blindly syncing everything into one giant untouchable file, you actually have the power to selectively back up specific data. Think about it. Do you really want to back up 50 gigs of apps just to save your text messages and contacts? Now you don't have to. It completely bypasses those traditional, hyper-frustrating iTunes backup failures that always seem to happen without giving you any actual error message. Plus, the file transfers are direct and bidirectional. You can zap heavy, raw videos and high-res photos back and forth between your Mac and iPhone in seconds, completely skipping those endless iTunes syncing delays or waiting around for iCloud uploads.
Now let's talk about what is probably my personal favorite feature here, deep diagnostics. You can finally stop guessing why your battery's draining or why your phone suddenly feels laggy. This diagnostic dashboard is essentially an X-ray machine for your iPhone. You can see exactly what's going on with your CPU and hardware in real time. You get battery usage cleanly broken down by app. And this is huge. You can check your exact battery cycle counts. That way, you know for sure if you actually need a hardware replacement before you go book a super expensive Genius Bar appointment. You can also view storage usage categorized by specific file types, check internal hardware health, and even verify your iCloud lock status. All of this right from your desktop.
But hey, we're not just looking at problems. We're actually fixing them. Have an older iPhone laying around? You can instantly breathe new life into it using the garbage cleaner. This tool safely clears out cached data, junk files, and all that leftover fragmented junk from deleted apps that silently eats up your storage space over the years. And for the advanced users out there, the built-in firmware library and direct iOS flashing tool are absolute game changers. You can totally bypass iTunes to flash specific iOS firmware versions directly onto your device. That gives you 100% control over your operating system updates. You can even create custom ringtones and wallpapers straight from your Mac's file system, applying them instantly without having to jump through Apple's usual ecosystem hoops.
And it doesn't stop there. The built-in toolbox throws in these incredibly useful everyday extras. We're talking real-time screen mirroring for presentations, bulk image compression to instantly free up internal space, and even custom icon layout management. It completely strips away those small, annoying ecosystem restrictions that us Mac users have just kind of accepted as the norm for years.
Okay, Section 2. Easy Mac Installation Guide. Bypassing Gatekeeper safely.
Now, getting this up and running does require a specific little sequence to get past Apple's built-in security checks. Because macOS has those strict gatekeeper warnings for unidentified developers, you can't just double-click the file and expect it to install.
So first, and I literally cannot stress this enough, only download the installer from the official website. Do not risk it anywhere else. Once it's downloaded, you'll want to right-click the file and select Open. If Apple's Gatekeeper still pops up and blocks you, no worries. Just head over to your Mac's System Settings, go to the Privacy and Security tab, scroll down a bit and hit Open anyway to force the installation through safely.
From there, it's honestly a breeze. You just enter your Mac password to confirm, then launch the 3uTools app. Grab a high-quality USB cable, plug your iPhone into your Mac, and when the prompt pops up on your phone screen, just tap, Trust this computer. Give it a few seconds, and boom, the dashboard instantly populates with all your device's vital stats. No complex network setup and 0 virtual machines required. Just pure native access.
Moving on to Section 3, Playing It Safe, Best Practices for Device Management.
Now, having this level of root-like administrative control over your operating system is incredibly powerful, which means we really need to talk about using it responsibly. The absolute golden rule here, like I mentioned earlier, always use the official download source to avoid tampered software. Third-party sites are just never worth the security risk, period. Second, absolutely always do a full, complete backup of your data before you start messing around with firmware restores or major iOS updates. Also, make sure you keep the application updated so it stays compatible with the newest iOS architectures. Just so you know, the current release reliably handles everything all the way up to iOS 18 and the iPhone 16 series. And finally, when you're setting things up, just be mindful to review and only grant the app permissions that are actually necessary.
To really sum up the value of this release, there's this quote. 3uTools for Mac has addressed a long-standing gap for macOS users who need more practical control over their iOS devices than Finder and iTunes provide. And honestly, that perfectly captures the entire point of our explainer today. You finally have the practical native control over your hardware that you have always deserved. The days of treating your iPhone like some locked, impenetrable black box the second you plug it into your Mac, those days are completely over.
Which brings us to our final thought for the day. Now that you have all these new superpowers right at your fingertips, what is the very first Apple limitation you plan to shatter? Are you going to run a deep diagnostic on that old, failing battery? Maybe instantly transfer a massive raw photo library? Or finally clear out years of built-up junk cache files? The control is finally back where it belongs, in your hands. Thanks for hanging out and diving into this explainer with me today, and hey, happy exploring!